One of my favourite all-time players is Marc Ribot, most known for the work he's done with Tom Waits over the years. He's an incredible guitar player who fuses a lot of my biggest influences into one place. You know, he's got a bit of Django Reinhardt about him. He has that down and dirty Chicago blues, Hubert Sumlin kind of vibe in his playing. And he delivers it all with like a punk attitude. He's quite angular, quite aggressive. Really appeals to a lot of my sensibilities as a player. So what I thought would be cool would be to take a basic minor blues and sort of look at the way he might treat it and the way we can bring some of those influences to the table as well. Okay, so we're going to be in A minor. I'm going to outline the changes. So this is a typical kind of Tom Waits minor blues, but also very typical of the Gypsy jazz style. Okay, we're in A minor. We're going to start on the 1. To the 4, D minor. Back to the 1. 5, E, or E7. Back to the 1. 4, D minor. Then we have the F7 to E7. Back to the 1. Okay, so the main thing to point out there is that before we hit the 5 for the second time, we go to the flat 6 first. F7, E7 to A minor. Which is one of those things that's very typical of Tom Waits, but again, very common in Gypsy jazz as well. I always just used to think, find your 5, start a fret higher. Okay, so step 1 for improvising over these kinds of changes, pentatonic scale, blues scale. So A minor blues, let's say. It's going to work beautifully. It's good to know a few little blues cliches. We'll get onto those a bit later maybe. Okay, second step is to start really trying to make sure that you can navigate the changes and pinpoint what's happening harmonically within the music. So for that, we're going to use triads and arpeggios. Arpeggios essentially are your triads, just sort of spread out in a more scale-like fashion. Okay, so I would try and find that A minor arpeggio within the same zone as your minor pentatonic scale. Root, flat 3, 5, root, flat 3, 5, root, flat 3. Okay, so let's do the same thing for our D minor. Let's take this chord shape as a starting point. We can outline all of those notes, we just have to add in the flat 3 on the A string along the way. Root, flat 3, 5, root, flat 3, 5. Notice your triad shapes appearing within there as well. All of these things will start to come together to create a really thorough view of the fretboard. We also can add the 5th in the bass. 5, 1, flat 3. That's really important. You know, Marc Ribot likes to start phrases on the 5th. Okay, then we want to be thinking about E7. So let's take an E major arpeggio within that zone. If you're thinking of the cage system, that's like your C shape. We can also add the 3rd and the 5th in the bass. Then we can add the flat 7. There it is. And again. When we encounter the F7, we can use the exact same thing as semitone higher. Okay, so before we go any further, I would suggest just taking your time with that stuff and learning to navigate the changes with nothing but arpeggio notes, so you can really lock down where the changes are occurring. So think of these arpeggios as landmarks. These are going to be the things you try and land on when you're navigating the changes. But now we can add a little bit of flesh to those bones. Let's put on some extensions to add some flavour. So if you're after the Django-y kind of vibe, the sort of swing noir jazz sound, a lot of that comes down to on your minor chord, adding the 6th interval. So if we think of an A minor, 1, flat 3, 5, you can grab the 6 here at the 4th fret of the D string. And then 1 octave higher here on the B string, 7th fret. Then do the same thing with your D minor. Let's introduce the 6th interval to it to make it a D minor 6. So start with your basic D minor arpeggio, root flat 3, 5, add the 6th here at the 4th fret of the G string, then 1 octave up at the 7th fret of the top E. You can add it in the low E as well, 7th fret. Okay, so sticking with the minors for now, let's go back to the A minor and add the 9th in next. So now we're going to have a chord that's got the 6th and the 9. Already sounds really moody. I like to test these intervals within the chords so I can hear the kind of sound that I'm implying on top of the changes. Okay, so now using our A minor arpeggio again, let's see if we can add the 9 to it. Root, 9, same thing as the second of course. Flat 3, 5, root, 9, flat 3, 5, root, 9, flat 3. Okay, so now we've got the 9s and the 6s. Now if we want to get really adventurous, we can chuck in the major 7th as well. This essentially turns this into a melodic minor scale. Beautiful sounding scale. Now we want to find all the same things on the D minor, of course. 1, 9, flat 3, 5, 6. 1, 9, flat 3, 5, 6. Add in the major 7th. Again, pretty adventurous sounding. Okay, now the final thing for now on the minor chords is to start to spread these things around the fretboard a bit. Obviously this takes a lot of time. You can do this in your 5 positions as located through the cage system. That's kind of the way I do it. It's also nice to do some horizontal runs, typical of Django Reinhardt. For example, A minor. Let's say we take an A minor 9. One, 9, flat 3, 5, 1, 9, flat 3, 5, 1, 9, flat 3, 5, 1. Same thing for the D minor. Okay, now on to the E7, our 5 chord. This one we can really toy with. It's really common on your dominant chord to add loads of extra extensions, really mess with it, alter extensions and all that stuff. We're going to do the typical gypsy jazz thing of adding a flat 9. Sounds awesome, beautiful sound. Especially when it resolves to the A minor back to the 1. Okay, so to add a flat 9 on top, really it's as simple as taking E7 and adding an F. Now it's worth noting that if we were to remove the E and replace it with the F, rather than keeping both, we end up with a diminished arpeggio built off the 3rd of the chord. So E7, the 3rd is G sharp. Play a diminished arpeggio off G sharp. Again, it resolves beautifully back to the 1. As well as being built off the 3rd, you can see that that diminished arpeggio contains the 5th of the E7 and the flat 7 of the E7, as well as the flat 9, of course. So really, if we're thinking E7 and we play a G sharp diminished arpeggio, we're getting the 3rd, the 5th, the flat 7 and the 9. One of the many other things I love about Marc's playing is his use of dissonance. Take an A minor 9, grab only the flat 3 and the 9. You You get that beautiful dissonant clash between the notes. So cool. Do it on adjacent strings and it sounds even cooler. Those close intervals. Walking all the way down to the 6th there. Do it on the next string set. There's your spaghetti western textures. Let's do the same for the D minor. Grab the minor third, add the 9 just below it. Sounds pretty ace. Another cool way to add dissonance on a minor chord is to bring in the flat 5. Think about an A minor 7 with a flattened 5th. Sounds pretty gnarly, that. We also mentioned blues vocabulary, so think old school Hubert Sumlin, Otis Rush kind of Chicago blues vocabulary. There's so many things within those styles, but just a couple of things I'll show you that I've found really useful and I hear a lot in Marc's playing. Take an A minor chord, take the top 3 strings, that's one of your many A minor triads. Take the A minor pentatonic scale along the G string with a blues note. Now hybrid pick all 3 strings at the same time, permanently barring those top 3 at the 5th fret. Sounds pretty cool. Same kind of thing can be done off this side of the shape. If we're thinking pentatonic, you can be thinking shape 5 if you're A minor. Blues note. I think that about sums up every kind of thing I'm using in the etude. If I've missed anything out, let me know in the comments and I'll do a follow-up video on it. If there's any particular area of this that you've got any questions about, again, put it in the comments and I'll do a follow-up. This is right within my wheelhouse, this stuff. I love it. I could go on about this stuff for days. It's hard to condense it down into such a short video. But thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.